Hi, my name's Isaac Shutt. I'm an estate planning attorney who's licensed to practice law both in Texas and in Wyoming. And in this video, we'll talk about one of my favorite things in the world, and that is the revocable living trust, sometimes called a revocable trust or living trust, but it's very popular, this style of trust. People love it. And one of the really common questions that we get almost daily is, should I put real estate into my living trust? Well, it's a really great question, and there is not a one-size-fits-all answer, but let me answer it for most people. Now, for most people, they only own their homestead. And so the question of whether or not you should transfer your homestead into your revocable living trust, the answer here in Texas anyway is usually yes. And in fact, that is so common and so popular that when we set up living trusts here in our office, we actually kind of do that as part of the package. So almost all of our living trust clients, when we create the document, we're also going to create a deed for their homestead to transfer that into the trust right then at that moment, which means by the time they get home from our office, we've already electronically recorded that deed. So by the time they get home, the house is already in the trust. That's pretty darn cool, because what that's going to mean is on the Central Appraisal District website, the owner will show as your trust instead of your individual name. That's amazing, because if somebody goes in and searches your individual name, we're trying to make it harder for the general public to see that, especially if somebody's like trying to sue you and try to see how deep your pockets are and just being nosy. We don't want to make it easy for them. We want to take that house out of your name and put it in the name of the trust with the Central Appraisal District. So that's why it's so common. And the other reason it's so common is most of our clients own their home. And so when they pass away, they want to avoid probate. And so obviously, if that house did not get deeded into the trust when you first established the trust, well, then that house out there is going to generate a need for a will probate. And that's going to cost thousands of dollars and take a lot of time. The answer is, in terms of the homestead, yeah, you're probably going to want to transfer that into the trust when you establish it. Now, there is a slight caveat to that, which is some of our clients don't have a lot of assets outside the value of their home. And so if that client is maybe elderly and doesn't have a lot of money or investments outside their home, we sometimes don't transfer the home directly into a revocable living trust because we're sometimes worried that that client may in the future need Medicaid. Now, if you think you may ever need Medicaid, you don't want to put your home directly into your revocable living trust because that could actually be a Medicaid disqualifier. So you have to be really careful if you don't have much assets in terms of transferring your home directly into your revocable living trust, because that could be a Medicaid no-no. Now, we have ways around that. We just use a special deed or, things like that. You would want to be careful in how you talk with your attorney about that. But I'm just answering the question, should I put my house in the trust? The answer is generally yes. Now, let's talk about the client who has property, real property outside of just their homestead property. Should you put the non-homestead property in the revocable living trust? Well, the answer is yes, but we can do better. So let's talk about that. If you watch my channel, you know I'm a big fan of LLCs, limited liability companies. And limited liability companies can be put inside the trust. So let's just say you've got some rental properties. Well, it's a good idea for asset protection to go ahead and put those rental properties inside of an LLC. So we've got everything protected, and then we transfer the ownership of the LLC into your trust. A lot of attorneys would say we really wouldn't recommend putting your rental real estate into the same trust pot as your homestead property because now we're opening up exposure there. So a lot of attorneys would not recommend that. So we sometimes do when a client just has like maybe some recreational land or a ranch or things like that, sometimes those people will put their non-homestead property into the revocable living trust. But for our clients that have investment properties where there might be some liability exposure, you can put that into your revocable living trust, but we would say it's even better to put it into an LLC first and then put the LLC in the trust. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. Again, my name is Isaac Shutt. I'm an estate planning attorney who's licensed to practice law both in Texas and in Wyoming.